Mario enters a room for what looks like an ordinary Koopa Kid battle. Defeat Larry, get the key, and exit. Simple. But what if we could take this ordinary boss fight and add additional layers to it to create a wave battle? It sounds complicated, but with a little bit of knowledge and some practice, it's actually not very difficult to learn. In this fight, maybe instead of dying when he falls into toxic sludge, Larry actually gains superpowers and comes back stronger than ever. That is, after all, how toxic chemicals work. This is a simple example, but if you understand how to make this, you can move on to building more elaborate setups. Creating wave battles requires some understanding of entity limits. I'll cover this briefly, but if you'd like a more thorough explanation, there's a link in the description to a video that goes into much more detail. Now let's take a look at this level to see how it's made. This boss fight is located inside of a subworld and accessed via a pipe that can be used to enter but not exit. The subworld is 3 screens wide. On the left side of the subworld is the bonus room, which the player exits through after defeating the boss fight. Above this are 91-way gates. One-ways continuously count towards the subworld's entity limit of 100, regardless of location. There is a horizontal layer of ground all the way across the level, creating a vertical scroll stop that prevents any upward scrolling in the rooms. Auto-scroll is also enabled, which prevents leftward scrolling in the boss room. Since the boss room is located in the lower right corner of the subworld, it cannot scroll in any direction. Besides the 91 ways mentioned earlier, there are 10 additional entities active while in the boss room. Larry, 2 piranha plants, a key door, Big Larry, 2 munchers, and 3 additional one-ways. Although Big Larry is off-screen, he will still spawn when Mario enters the boss room, because his 4x4 area is within 3 tiles of the left side of the screen. If he were any further to the left, he would not spawn. The 2 off-screen munchers are also close enough to the edge of the screen to be active. Since there are 100 active entities, the winged fireball will not spawn from the pipe on the left until Larry dies. Once Larry is gone, the entity count drops to 99, and this is what happens off-screen. The winged fireball melts the ice coins, dropping Larry onto the conveyor belt and sending him into battle. This method of using a pipe up against the left or right side of the screen is the only way I'm aware of to make a spawner that spawns items out of view. You'll usually want to use a red pipe when creating these types of setups, because they spawn items more quickly than the other colors. If you can blend your spawn pipe in with the aesthetic of the level, it will be less sus, and the player will be more surprised by the next wave of battle. Now let's take a look at a setup that's a little bit more tricky. In this level, there is no subworld or isolated boss room. It's just a standard auto-scroller with only one section. Since the player will be running through every screen until the end, it will be more difficult to conceal a wave battle contraption, but not impossible. The key to making this work is custom auto-scroll. Unlike normal auto-scroll, which just moves the screen forward, custom auto-scroll can move the screen forward while simultaneously preventing any upward scrolling. This allows you to hide things in the upper screens without blocking them off. In this fight, Mario needs to manipulate the piranha plant into melting the ice and unlocking the shellmet. The player will most likely expect the piranha plant to have the key, but instead, there is only an ominous purple fog followed by a surprise visit from a giant flying Bowser. Fortunately for Mario, Bowser is not exactly the smartest boss ever, so this is a fairly trivial fight, and yet, somehow still satisfying. Once Mario has obtained the key, he gains access to the bonus room, which has all the normal bonus room things, as well as an automatic switch that unlocks the bridge chopper so that the level can be completed. The boss fight in this level works in essentially the same way as the one in the first level, but it was actually much more of a challenge to build. Let's take a look at it in the editor, and I'll explain why. Other than the one-ways stashed at the top, there's nothing noteworthy in the first 80% of this level. It's just some good old-fashioned Marios. The custom auto-scroll is set to fast, and it goes straight forward to the end of the level. The elements used to create the boss fight setup take up about 2 screens worth of space. The first challenge was to create a mini-boss using normal enemies. In levels with lava, boss enemies can't be used to trigger spawns upon defeat, because for whatever reason, there is a very long delay between when they are defeated and when the entity count updates. In this case, the piranha plant and spike ball create somewhat of a survival challenge, as it takes a little bit of time to unlock the spiny shell. The next challenge was to find a way to contain Bowser before he enters the fight. Big Bowser is noisy, crushes things, and shoots fireballs from very far away, so it's not very easy to hold him as a surprise. One way to keep Bowser from smashing the ground is to suspend him in air with a twister. In this case, it also keeps him just far enough away that he doesn't shoot fire into the battle. You can also stop Bowser's fire by bouncing him on a spring, but that is a lot more noisy and annoying. With this setup, when the ice under Bowser is melted, the side spring and twister fall through the one-tile gap, while the wider Bowser simply lands on top of the conveyors. Maintaining the necessary entity count can be a little tricky when a boss fight is not isolated. In this case, there are 2 doors beyond where the spawn pipe is located, which means that there needs to be at least 2 active entities present when the pipe scrolls onto the screen that are no longer there at the end. This is what these 2 munchers are for. The last major issue to deal with was figuring out where to put the bonus room. Due to the custom auto-scroll, the player can potentially be squished by auto-scroll no matter where you put it, which is not much of a bonus. Fortunately, there is a tiny bit of room over the end of the level that works, and you can even slow down the scroll so that the player can actually see it. As in the first level, the elements of the contraption are blended into the aesthetic of the level. There is also a twister in the lower screen, so that the sound of the other twister won't be noticeable as the player runs through. Finally, the Piranha Plant, Spike Ball, and Bowser are all placed back far enough that they don't appear when re-entering from the bonus room. The pipe's ominous sound effect is also disabled by the switch. The defeated bosses stay defeated and the bonus music rolls on. Now that you know how to make wave battles, what if you wanted to go full Double Dragon and create a fight with several waves? I haven't tried it yet, but I think that using switches and tracks would be the best way to accomplish this. Enemies on tracks do not despawn, no matter how far away they get, so they can be moved around and stored out of sight quite easily. Also, switches can be used to advance enemies from one track to another. The one catch is that they will always need a track to land on, or else they will just fall off of the screen. The switch contraptions will need to produce one additional entity when triggered, otherwise, there will be a chain reaction, and all of the switches will go off at once. This is an example of a switch contraption that produces one entity. The spring spawns from the pipe, launching the shell into the switch without destroying it. It's probably possible to make something more space efficient than this, but this is good enough for 4 waves. I'm not going to make a full level with this setup, but please enjoy this extremely intense sample battle. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and feel free to ask any questions that you may have.